Hello. Today I want to talk to you about approaching a river and what to think and how to approach it. So we got our rod, we got our flies, and we got our reel and line all picked out. We're all set, ready to go. Now what? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is not tie on a fly, and I'm going to walk down to the river and look at it. I'm going to look to see if it's clear, dirty, kind of gauge clarity, time of year, and think about what am I going to start with. Usually clarity has more dependence on what color I'm going to start with. If it's high and fast, I'll probably add some weight to the fly. If it's low and clear, I might do just a short lead or do an unweighted fly. So that's the first thing to look at. Don't even tie a fly on and go down and look. Um, you got a couple different ways to do it. Usually if I go down to the river and it's low and clear and cloudy and overcast, I might start with a bigger, more natural fly. If it's, say it's high and dirty and cloudy, I'll probably start with something white, something bright. Give them a target, give me a target. I prefer that. But it's not going to take long for me to switch. If I have some spots that I know there's fish, I'm going to pick those spots, throw a couple different colors, and if they don't go on that, I'll start switching from there. So if I go to the river and it's low, clear, and bright sun, depending on time of year, but most of the time I'll start with a small bait fish, a small sparkle minnow, a small sculpin. If it's dead middle of the winter, January, December, February, it's going to be black, small weighted and black. That's really what they're eating in the winters, leeches, stuff like that. So I'll find that be more productive in the spring, maybe minnows, even in the fall going into winter minnows, whatever. So those are the first couple things I'm going to think about as you look, you're going to kind of have an idea what the water temp is, and as you see what the water levels are, that should help you determine also where you're going to fish. If you walk to the river and you see that it's just the standard, gentle, normal pace, maybe it's a little bit low. You got to understand, fish use the centers of the rivers more in those situations. So now your approach has to be a little different. Keep your body shallow and cast out into the deep, whether it's your boat or you're wading. Doesn't matter. You want to fish the deep water. That's where the fish are. Now, if it's high, now you can put yourself kind of in the middle of the river when it's cranking. Most of the fish get jammed to the bank, so now you're looking for the soft edges on the sides. One thing to deal with fishing high water or low water. High water, they're all on the banks. Low water, they're all in the middles. The only variables are on that tend to be nighttime. Of course, they all spread out, and also high water in the winter. Still, a lot of times in high water in the winter, they stay in those deepest pools. So it's just winter. It's too cold. They don't venture out much. Um, so that's something to think about too. Where are you going to fish? If it's high, maybe you're thinking instead of the outside bend that you typically fish, you're going to hit that inside corner where the sand drops off now. That's a very good thing to think about. Um, so you just kind of get in the water and you start picking her up. Try to find patterns. One of the things that'll help you the most is being familiar with the area you're fishing. What that allows you to do is go out, and if you know there's a few spots that have fish, you go hit those spots. And if you don't see anything, it's time to switch. Now, you got a couple things that could be going on. There's no activity, fish just aren't going. You got the wrong fly, wrong presentation going on. So you start with what you're going to do because you're going to stay fishing. So usually what ends up happening is I'll start greedy. I'll start, if I'm wade fishing the upper whatever, some upper small river, I'll start with like a 4-inch fly. And I'm going to burn first. I'm going to move around, hit what I can. Maybe fish 40 minutes. If I don't see a fish, I'm going to assume that there aren't many big fish out. Then I'm on the wrong pattern, so maybe I switch colors, maybe I downsize, whatever it is. But you start mixing it up. A lot of times it only takes a few. I mean, there's sections I float where in 15 minutes I know if we've got it going on or not. So I'm either switching flies or doing something. And I'll switch flies 3, 4, 5 times before I really am like, uh-oh, they're not biting. So think about that. I always start greedy though, fishing a bigger fly, trying to get a big fish, and then work myself down from that as I kind of start getting desperate. Um, that will show you what is active. If you start with the big fly, you're never going to question if there's big fish out that you're missing. Those fish will move for the bigger fly. When they come out, they move out of their homes and they come out to feed. So you can expect to see them. Sometimes you'll just see them sitting in the middle of the river and you'll know they're out. They might not chase a streamer, but they're out and around. And when you start seeing that, you got to start putting together how you're going to catch them. if you're seeing them lay out and not chase streamers, you got to switch techniques. And I see that sometimes cold water in the spring, whatever it is, they'll just sit out and feed in the drift, not chase a streamer real well. That's part of the deal. Got to switch tactics. A lot of times when that's the case, I like to just boondog a big nymph out in front of the boat or something like that, and that'll pull some of those fish. But so when you approach the river, think about everything. You know, you're going to know your conditions, but don't be afraid to try and change things. Also, don't be afraid to take breaks. You know, I'm one of those guys who, if I go fishing for 2-3 hours and don't see anything, it's like, well, unless you have a major front or some major thing coming in that's gonna jump fish, you know, by watching the weather, you know, clouds are rolling in at X time in the afternoon, so you want to fish till the clouds roll in or after, whatever it is. Sometimes you got to do that. But a lot of days, if I start and it's just a standard conditions day, say the sun's going to be out and you get a little clouds in the morning, you're going to fish through that, see what you can do. Once the clouds dissipate, sun comes out, you can usually feel like it's kind of dying. Go take a break. Wait, go back out later in the day. You can't catch them when they're not active. You know, those fish got to be out doing their part in order for you to have a chance for them. So you have to fish on their terms. Streamer fishing is one of the things where if you really want to streamer fish, boy, you better go out there, and if they're not showing it and not going, they're not going. Take a break, regroup, go back at it. I think it's probably the biggest mistake people make is they try to, you know, especially if you don't see a window at all while you're fishing, it makes sense to continue to try and wait to see that window, especially like on an overcast day. Overcast days, you have a tendency that's not always great right when you start, but somewhere in that 7, 8, 9 to 11 noon, you know, something usually happens a lot. Maybe it's you're got a cloudy day and then it's going to clear out in the afternoon. Well, typically your bite's going to be later in the day. So you have to understand that you got to grind through some of these windows looking for your good window. Now, if you think you're in your good window, that's when you got to change. You got to be aggressively changing flies, trying to figure out, okay, what are they going on? What are they going on? A lot of days I'll go down and anywhere, doesn't matter where, and it's going to take 3 or 4 flies sometimes before I figure something out that's working. Now, what I've also found in those times, once you figure it out, you're on fish all day, and you can fish behind people and everything else. Those days are easier to fish behind people. When they're committing suicide on anything, you know, it's all about luck. If they're kind of picky and stuff, you can usually, yeah, it's fun. Figure it out, and you'll see the success from there. Hopefully that kind of helps you. More questions, I'm sure you're going to have them. What else to do when you approach the river? Look, just go get after it. You know, you got to kind of have a game plan in there. The biggest thing I would say is don't tie on a fly before you get to the water. You got to look at the water, see what your fly is going to look like in the water. That's going to help you determine where to start. Yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit. And like I say all the time, DM or comments for questions, and I'll take them from there. But hopefully this helps you get a little bit of a start, knowing what to look for and where to go. And I'll kind of break down and show you the different flies I'd switch throughout the day. But hopefully that helps a little bit, guys. Thanks a lot.